On the 10th of April 2022, I started my own console challenge, a journey to beating every PlayStation 2 game. I've been collecting these games for many years, and one day I said to myself, why am I not playing these? They're gathering around, gathering dust. Games are meant to be played, so that's what I'm gonna do. We've already encountered some epic moments. There's been laughs along the way.
Oh no. Ah! It's actually pretty good!
And of course, a few tears. But one thing's for sure, we're gonna beat every PS2 game. Hello. Why am I here after the intro? We should be talking or video reviewing the next game we beat. Well, yes, I'm on to game number 12, Digital Devil Saga. I have lost the ability to sit down, watch a whole entire VOD, and get the video review for it. That is game number 12, and at the moment I'm on live stream, game 113. So, why am I talking to you here right now? Well, we are 100 games nearly from where I am now to where our video review was. So there's going to be a slight change in the format. One, to catch up to it, and two, I sadly do not have like an hour to explain every game as well as trying to beat them all. I just don't have the time. So this video, we are going to go with one big, massive burst, 100 game beats, so you can get a recap of the last 100 games I've beaten to catch up to game 113 we are now, and then going forward I'm able to have a better memory of each game I've beaten, because the other problem I have with this is going back and watching like a 50-hour VOD for an RPG is incredibly hard, time consuming, and then video editing it, so I have to re-remember the plots, the details, and everything else about it. So get ready for 100 game beats that have happened so far in the PS2 Collection Challenge. Just a quick, what the game was, how it was beaten, a little bit of video proof, and if you really want to see how these games are beaten, we've got the entire VODs for it all to enjoy. So yeah, a little bit different from the format, but I want to get the right, comfortable, sweet spot of the PS2 Collection Challenge. So enjoy 100 games beaten right now. Game number 12, Digital Devil Saga. Started 4th of May 2022, and we finished it on the 9th of May 2022. The big goal requirement for this one, when I started up the game, it was just default, booted up, so I thought, right, we'll beat the story as the default difficulty. The overview of this game is that you play as a group of heroes. If you've known Shin Megami Tensei games, usually it's infamous for controlling various demons and deities and gods of different regions of the world. Well, in this you fight those demons, but you control a party member of people. Yes, there is no demon fusing in this game, it is more about using your parties to defeat the demons and absorb their DNA, and the feeding system is very important. Eating them levels up your skills to do the unique thing, the Magatama tree. Here, you will be leveling up and giving the skills to your party members to have unique builds, unique setups, and above all, different playstyles for all your characters of the game. Digital Devil Saga also has one of the most tactical RPG gameplay elements, the press turn system I've ever seen in the game. I absolutely love this. It's so tactical. You have 3 potential turns to use with your allies, but if you pass, it counts as a half turn, and you're able to tactically do other things with your turns. If you get critical hits, that means you also get another half turn. It all depends on your tactics, how you plan out your characters. It's a fantastic system. It's only in a few of the Shin Megami Tensei games, and honestly, just give the press turn system a go. I really love the tactics of this game. The main game in itself wasn't too much of a bad time. I had my a couple of my party members with almighty damage, and it was a breeze with almighty damage, even on some of the super bosses. The only real prevention of almighty damage was the final boss, so we had to rely on other versions and skills, but we defeated the final boss, and that was really the wrap for the game. It was pretty good RPG experience. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, yeah, I took on and defeated the optional bosses for a new game run. That's right, I took on Surf, took him out with a beautiful Ragnarok, and even took on the even more challenging fight in this game through the skin of my teeth. Honestly, it's an intense couple of minutes, but we even took on Beelzebub with his evil Deathflies attack, got through it, and defeated him as well. I went full hog on this. The only thing I haven't done yet is took on the Demi-Fiend. One day maybe, for a special one day. As the game wraps up after you defeat the final boss, it ends on a very emotional cliffhanger. That's right, this game is split up into 2 parts. Maybe why it is a slightly shorter JRPG experience. Still a fantastic game, and definitely a series you should play if you really want a great different tactics, turn-based character battle system. We will be returning to this game one day in the challenge, but I can let you all know now, it's not within the next 100 games. But beating the final boss gets you credits, this game does have them, and it's a good time. I finally beat this in 43 hours, 5 minutes, 13 seconds. Overall, a little bit challenging, but nothing too bad if you just work on preventing your team's weaknesses being exploited. Go down the right tree to stop that, and it's a good RPG time. Game 13, Spartan Total Warrior. Started 10th of May 2022 and finished on the 13th of May 2022. The beat requirement for this one was I started a new game and there were 3 difficulties. You know me, default difficulty, so we went with Soldier to see just what Spartan Total Warrior was going to bring to the table. Spartan Total Warrior is Sega's answer to trying to get a game similar to God of War. God of War was a console exclusive to the PS2. Spartan Total Warrior, though, was a game that was multi-platform release. Sega makes, and still does make, the Total War franchise, which is a tactics-based game about different wars of different timelines. But in this spin-off, you play as an unnamed Spartan warrior who is having a conversation with Ares, God of War. Yeah, that is exactly how on the nose this game is. You play as this unnamed Spartan warrior, and Ares will help you during your battles. The game plays like God of War, hack and slash, take on waves of enemies, and you have extra weapons, extra abilities as you go on through the game. However, when I played this, the issue with Spartan Warrior is I feel the objectives are incredibly taxing and hard. Usually it's protect missions, and usually it's don't let this person die, don't let a door get knocked down. It's rinse and repeat. There are some interesting moments of the game, but this is mostly how the game plays out. Including the many levels you're going to be exploring, there are intensely difficult boss fights as well. On normal difficulty, these fights were not easy. They were usually gimmicks or incredibly hard brick walls of fights. You'd have to learn weird gimmicks, like one here was the boss fight. Constantly, you have to make sure that the AI isn't getting the magic that keeps spawning. The problem with this boss fight is it's randomly generated. So while you're trying to avoid letting the enemy get the health and getting the health and the magic, the problem is sometimes it's out of your control with how it's spawned, and the AI will dash towards these upgrades, and it just causes a fight to be even more punishing and difficult because of that. So it was very much a game of cat and mouse for this boss in particular. There's even a Hydra fight, because God of War didn't have a Hydra fight in that game. You had to separate and make sure that you make a unique experience. Either way, yes, it's not historically correct, as you can see here. There are definitely some mythological boss fights and other abilities. It gets the game a bit more interesting, I guess, but it really is, you know, can we have God of War? No, you've got God of War at home. This was definitely a cash grab and opportunity to try and make their own God of War clone. Now, I would say the game is enjoyable, apart from this level. Act 2, Chapter 6. Oh boy, does this level suck ass. This is an incredibly long level, and it has the dreaded escort mission. Yes, you've got to protect this guy, Archimedes, during a part of this level. Now, we always have a complaint about Ashley and other escort characters, but I don't think they played this game. Good God, the amount of enemies you have to kill, the amount of different waves you have to clear, all in one checkpoint with minimal health and magic pickups. This was such a punishing stage. If anyone says this game was pretty easy and, you know, not too bad, they must have played it through on the easiest difficulty. Normal mode, which I think a lot of people would play it on, oh my God, you die and you are sent back to a checkpoint that is basically at the beginning of the escort. It is rough. It is unbelievably frustrating, this stage. This was the biggest brick wall for me during my playthrough. As you can see here, we started just under 6 hours into our play, and yes, it took me 2 hours to beat it. The game time might only said 28 minutes, but after all those retries and resets and retries and resets, this was one of the worst experiences on the level. The rest of the game treated me not too badly. By the way, the final boss fight, shockingly, is Ares, because, you know, God of War didn't want to end on a finale like that, no. And yeah, it's a pretty intense final boss fight. There's ads everywhere and everything going on, but yeah, the first time I decided to take on Ares, it soft-locked. It just soft-locked, so once again, the game just really wanted me to get as much time as we had with this game, and yeah, I had to redo the level again. The last level was long, so I had to do another hour to get to the end of the boss fight, and hopefully this time we didn't get a softlock. This time we focused more. Gotta be so careful of these ads during this final boss fight, though. Really is intense. I'm about to die, Ares is about to die, so I just go for one final dash, and thank goodness I do the good enough blows to win the battle. Ares was no more. With your skills intact, you're able to finally defeat Ares, and the game even spells it out in black and white to you. Ares is dead. Finally, we had defeated the one god that was honestly trying to help us. What a shame. What a shame.
Wow.
So when I sit down and I think about this game, once the credits are rolling, I was having a real good vibe and really enjoying this game. I was a God of War clone. I wasn't really bothered about that. But really, after that escort mission, it just left such a sour taste in my mouth that I always remember it now. That's the problem. Because of that, I'm like, oh, that escort mission sucks. I would never want to go back and play it because of that reason. So yeah, the credits rolled, and just before finishing and the ending time, there was a little bonus arena mode where you can add enemies to this, like, Total War basic kind of aspect of it. Yeah, you can have mass waves of enemies. You can set up however you want, and I messed with it. It all depends on what you found in the levels to make this more or less exciting. But with that, that was it. Stop the timers at 12 hours, 48 minutes, 36 seconds. GG. Game 14. Brothers in Arms Earned in Blood. Started on the 13th of May 2022 and finished on the 15th of May 2022. The beat requirement was going to be that there are multiple difficulties on story mode. Default difficulty for me was normal, and how it was described, it was going to be the most default experience. So as always, down the middle, we'll go and beat the game on normal till we get to the credits. Brothers in Arms Earned in Blood is a tactical first-person shooter. It basically is a retelling of a fictional character, Sergeant Joe Hartsock, describing and foretelling what happened during the invasion of Normandy. You will have cutscenes where you talk to the Colonel, and there'll be subsequent events after this that you'll be replaying and reliving through Joe's life. At the time of playing, I annoyingly didn't have the first Brother in Arms when it came up on the side wheel from the user input, so this actually is a sequel of the events from the previous Brother-in-Arms saga. Either way, still, the only real reference is Baker, who is another fighter from another Brother-in-Arms games that gets referenced through the gameplay. It's still not really too necessary. But what makes Brother-in-Arms in its gameplay a more tactical shooter is you can't run and gun. If you run and gun, you will be shot down and you will die. The whole point is to command your team and yourself to do pincer attacks and flank enemies behind enemy lines. You have tactical maps, you have control of your forces. The whole point is to plan it out and make sure that you and your team are surviving, but you are in a tactical advantage all the time and one step ahead of the enemy. You got to take your time, you got to look at the map setups, you got to look at where enemies are shooting from, and with the right positioning, eventually you can plan attacks where you are able to bombard an enemy with enough bullets, catch them off guard, and take them out. It's a slow, tactical game. It's not like your Call of Duty where you run and gun. It's a different experience all the way through this game. As you saw the example there, that was a tactical approach. But as you see here on normal difficulty, look what happens when you run in and just think you can just run and gun, go up to an enemy's face and take them on. The game is programmed not to do this. It punishes you. You've got to take your time. Unless you play on easy difficulty, I guess, then it's a different story. I actually really enjoyed this game. I think it's the tactics I liked. The one issue I had is the performance. It seems to have... It could be a PAL issue. It could be I was playing on real hardware with PAL games, or maybe it was a bad PS2 port, but it is a bit rough around the edges when it does run, and it does seem to chug a little bit. It's a bit slow-paced because of that, but it's different. This was an incredibly different experience for a 6th gen title. I'm very surprised they went with it. It made a lot of sense to have a more tactical shooter game, and it's enjoyable. The final mission, you just have to get to a point where you light a flare, and this is how it wraps up. Sergeant Joe has told the Colonel everything that's gone on with the events during his time in the war, and it's a final hurrah. Everything said and done, you sit down with Baker, the previous character from the Brother-in-Arms games. A job well done, and a whiskey is waiting for that sweet final victory. The war is over, and peace can finally be had. The credits roll, and we can say sayonara to Brother-in-Arms Earned in Blood. Like I said before, the game has performance issues. It could be a PAL issue, though. I always had to remember that. We play all my games in PAL 50, if we're very lucky, PAL 60 format. I play on real hardware. It's the bed I made, and it's the bed I will lie in. I'm a collector, and also want to beat these games. That's how it's done. If you really want to enjoy this game for a tactical experience, play it on normal mode, supposedly on difficulty. If you play on easy mode, I guess you can have a run and gun experience, but it loses the layer of tactics and it loses the layer of what this game was meant to be. Don't approach this as a run and gun game. Enjoy it for its tactics. It's a short game anyway. After the credits were finished rolling, a final time of 8 hours, 47 minutes, 7 seconds. A fair length, a short length, and just give the tactics a go, guys. Game 15, Suikoden Tactics, started 15th of May 2022, finished 25th of May 2022. The beat requirement for this one is when you boot up the game, it's just a simple, beat the story, go through it. So that's what we do. As the name suggests, Suikoden Tactics is a tactical role-playing game. And it is a game that, before I knew going into it, takes place before and after the events of Suikoden 4. Because of this, if you have a Suikoden 4 save, you get to pass over some bonus traits from how well you did in Suikoden 4. Sadly, I didn't know this, and also it was my first ever Suikoden game, so there's a lot I didn't know about what the gameplay revolves around Suikoden. Suikoden 4, you play as a character called Kirill, and you are forming a party to deal with a problem called rune cannon technology. So the game takes place before the events of Suikoden 4, and that is the tutorial part. You play as Kirill here, young Kirill, learning the ideas of the combats of the game, and later on you leap forward to the events that take place afterwards. Suikoden has a very unique system where there are hundreds of party members, or they are called Stars of Destiny. Once again, I didn't know about this, but it's a really unique feature where you can go around and collect multiple party members, doing side quests, doing extra optional missions, and it makes it a really interesting thing, actually. So you can have a very vast array of different members in your party as long as you go explore and do extra side quest stuff. I wish I knew about this, because going forward from now on, every Suikoden game I kind of do follow a guide, because I really dug this series in this RPG, and I really wanted to make sure I got the full experience, and actually really, secretly, I did really love the gameplays behind this series. Do be warned though, this game does have permadeath on certain characters. Yeah, that's right. You could be an hour into a really long combat scenario, and all it takes is that beloved bullshit crit to take out one of your key members of your party, and they're gone for good. There are characters that run away, but then there are characters that die. So be prepared for that. And yeah, sometimes it can be heartbreaking, but do you want to lose an hour of progress in a long battle, or do you save and load? The choice is yours when it comes to that. But that's what's great about this game too. Every character has some weird, unique properties. Some have literally the only point of them is to find treasure. Some excel at magic, and some are brilliant at melee and speed. You can manage your weapons of these characters, manage their runes to get extra different abilities, but most importantly, pay attention to the terrain. The elemental color on the floor can make or break characters. If they are on their elemental weakness on the floor, they will lose stat bonuses. For instance, if water is on fire, they will get punished. If fire is on fire, they will excel and do more damage. You should manage the terrain that you're on as well as off of it. It's a great little thing to focus on, and it really can change the tide of many battles in the game for your success through the tactics. Nearing the end of the game, elemental floor pacing and placement is very, very crucial. It is everywhere, so you really need to manage this and learn the system early on, because it gets really intense near the end. I honestly got very lucky, I think, during this final boss fight. All the RNG and pieces fell in the right place while I was attempting this. The terrain is fire, Kirill is fire element, and I'm absolutely able to nuke him as well with his passive ability where there's a fire above, that fire image above his head means he got an attack up buff, I think because he was close to death in another previous scenario. But I'm able to nuke the boss just due to luck, organization, and managing terrain. As said before, terrain is super important in this game. It can make a battle go from in your favor to completely against you. Remember to manage this, and as you can see here for this example, one of the final bosses of the game I'm able to absolutely decimate, thankfully, due to the builds I had and the elemental placements. This game is great though. I love the element of tactics. It's multi-layered tactics placement, you know, where enemies are, where you are. Really enjoyable. I have to say that, you know, because of that, I really dug this game, and I wish I went out and got all of the Stars of Destiny during my first initial playthrough when I was doing so. So after a few epic finale boss fights and Kirill mysteriously gets taken away somewhere, everyone wonders, did he survive the collapse of this building? And they're out from the rubble, he appears, and everyone is obviously overjoyed that Kirill survived, and the rune cannon technology, which turns everyone into these evil eyes and fish creatures, has been thwarted and ended. Kirill's happy. The party members that you have formed all are happy near the end. I believe this ending changes depending on how many of the Stars of Destiny you've found. But that's the wrap. You beat the game, everyone is happy, and the world is saved. With that, Kirill's tale comes to an end and the credits start rolling. Suikoden Tactics is a fantastic tactical game, honestly very deep with what it has, you know, the weapon system, the rune system, leveling up characters. Yeah, it has permadeath, but I believe most of the Suikoden games do have an element of permadeath depending on guest characters. So yeah, there's got that, but hey, sometimes you got to deal with the cards you're dealt with, haven't you? I really enjoy this. I really wish I kind of knew the flow of the games, so I would have played Suikoden 4 first, got all the Stars of Destiny in that game, then played Suikoden Tactics afterwards to get the little bonus content. Advise you guys out there, if you love an RPG and JRPGs, maybe do that yourself. I have, during the 100 games coming up, I do play Suikoden 4. It's a fantastic game in its own right as well. I loved Suikoden 4. So play that, then play this, go for 100% stars. I bet you'll get an amazing full package. But yeah, the game was beaten in 36 hours, 55 minutes and 58 seconds as well. A nice meaty, generally long RPG. Highly recommend this one. Please check it out. And yeah, by all means, Suikoden Tactics, definitely one of the great RPGs on the PS2. Game 16, Shadow the Hedgehog. Started the 25th of May 2022, finished 29th of May 2022. Now, the beat requirement for this is, if you go through one story mode and storyline, you get credits. And usually, yeah, credits means a beat for most of us challenge runners out there. But for me, nah, I wanted to go the full hog on this. There's a last story in most of these Sonic Adventure style games. Shadow the Hedgehog has the last story. Yeah, I went through all the multiple storylines to do it, because why not? It felt like a true wrap and end to a game, and it's a short game even with last story, so why not? Shadow the Hedgehog has a good, evil, and other times neutral way of beating most of its stages. The reason for this is it affects one of the multiple playthrough endings you get, and if you want to go for last story, you need to beat every stage with a good or evil ending boss fight, depending on the route you take. You'll see and be able to follow it with this screen here, actually. The dots that you can see on the side here are the 10 different endings you need to get. Make sure you achieve every one of these, and then you can have a go at doing the last story, which for me, I considered my beat, as said before. You don't need to do this if you're attempting these in any form of your challenges or beats, but it's, for me, made me feel like it was the right thing to do, and that's what I did. Shadow the Hedgehog's gameplay boils down to good, evil, neutral, as said before. There are multiple levels, and as you start them, you can see what options you want to do. Also, there are many guest characters from the Sonic franchise, you know, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and on the evil side, it's mostly the antagonist Black Doom, but sometimes also you'll meet up with Eggman. He'll also be wanting Shadow's help during some stages to thwart the plans of the stage. And there's multiple different themes. You've got, you know, your bases, your cities, your jungles, your casino zones, and you're just trying to do a moral choice playthrough every time with Shadow, good or bad. And in the end of the day, when you finally beat a run with Shadow, you're determined your ending with the set choices the stage has forced you with. And that is what the gameplay is about. In most of the Sonic franchise games before, there's always been a homing attack. Shadow has that, but of course, for a game of its time, it had to be edgy. They gave Shadow access to multiple different weapons. Usually firearms are also melee weapons. You can get them at your disposal, run through the level, and take on enemies with guns and homing attacks. Not only that, they decided to also add vehicle gameplay as well. It's a little bit jarring. It's on a couple of stages, and it just really feels off. Definitely some like Grand Theft Auto GTA action impulse that was put into the game, appealing to the edgy teenagers of its time. This game really was, as I said, a game and timepiece where games were going, what game developers thought was what kids and teenagers and adults needed in their game. And that's really what Shadow is. It is just a blend of all of this. It works sometimes. It's cheesy and corny other times. It's just a silly, fun game if you can appreciate it for that afterwards. There are multiple boss fights, as said, as well, during the course of the game. Sometimes during mid-chapter, mid-checkpoints. Most of the time, you'll always have a boss fight at the end of a story run. And I will be honest, the boss fights really were one of the weaker points in the game. They're clunky, they're long usually, and you've got usually have guns or gimmicks in the fights. They do take much longer than really needed, and once you do eventually fight them a few times, and some are multiple appearances if you're going for last story run, they can grate a little bit. But look, I mean, at least there are boss fights, and they were trying to go full Sonic Adventure style with this game, and it works most of the time. When it comes to the last story as well, Shadow has achieved getting all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Throughout normal playthroughs, that's how it always ends. Shadow goes, oh, I am the ultimate life form, I have all the Chaos Emeralds. On the last story, Black Doom comes along, and he's like, oh yes, Shadow, you've bought all the Chaos Emeralds. There's the evil side of everything. But also, Sonic's friends come along, the hero side. And basically, what it boils down to is, at the end of the day, Black Doom wants to kill the entire human race, really. So, you shouldn't give the emeralds to him. And Shadow realizes this. A little too late, because Black Doom, while they're all having a chat, takes the 7 Chaos Emeralds and sends his black comment to Earth and absolutely already starts wrecking the hell out of it. Tentacles galore, absolutely destroying buildings. We've really got to take him out. So, how do you end on the last stage? Just like every other Sonic Adventure game, or other Sonic games in general, we go Super Sonic. But Sonic ain't here, so it's time for Shadow to go Super Shadow, or however it's pronounced for his skill. I think it's Super Shadow. Still, he gets his rage on, and he's ready to take on the final boss. While being Super Shadow, you're able to fly around and obviously take on the evil Black Doom that is in the middle and trying to destroy Earth. The most important thing about these forms in every Sonic game is to keep your ring count up. Rings are the lifeblood of Sonic, but they are actually your fuel when it comes to being a Super Sonic Super Shadow. If you run out of rings, you will get a game over, even on this fight, so you've got to manage. And on one of my plays to finally beat him, my goodness, did it get hairy. He's about to die, I'm about to run out of rings, and I just pray that this last shot lands, and it does. We take out the final boss in such a close scenario. And thank goodness, that was it. The final boss had been defeated. Shadow had successfully won. As everything wraps up, Shadow looks at the picture of Maria one final time and walks away. Edgy as always. That's just how he rolls. With that, we get the credit roll. Shadow the Hedgehog beaten. And with the last story as well. Fully done, and it, for me, is what I felt like was a good beat for my PS2 collection challenge. It's a fun game, it's goofy, it's silly, it's what Sonic Adventure games are all about. It chugs a bit on the PS2 real hardware though, so I don't know, Sega games were like that, so that's a bit of a shame. But it's not the damn best game out there, but it's a okay game. We beat the game in 14 hours, 42 minutes, and a second. So look, going for last story, just doing all the stories doesn't take that long anyway. So for a full package deal and getting it done in about 15 hours, I'd say is a very fair full beat and play. Thanks, Shadow. Game 17, Terminator Dawn of Fate. Started the 29th of May 2022, finished 30th May 2022. The beat requirement for this one, once you do the training, you are given a difficulty select and stage select screen. There are 3 difficulties, easy, medium, and an unlockable harder mode. 10 stages, so that's what I do. I mean, look, always with my rules, down the line, default difficulty, we slap on medium, we start level 1, and we get going until we get through all 10 stages of this game. Terminator Dawn of Fate actually serves as a prequel to the Terminator franchise. The movies which a robot is created to go back in time and prevent John Connor creating a resistance that has been trying to stop a robot apocalypse in the post-future Los Angeles. With this game is basically a telling of what events were happening before the movies. So you play as John Connor's resistance team, including Kyle Reese, who does eventually get sent back into time to save John Connor's mother from being killed in Terminator 1. Until then, though, you will be playing and basically enjoying that movie's tie-in prequel with this video game. All in all, the game's actually pretty good. There's some nice in-game cutscenes for its time, And the beginning of this game obviously shows that there's an assassin or a weird hooded figure entering into the vicinity of the Resistance base. John Connors, Kyle Reese, and the other playable characters are all interacting with one another. Also, there is another agent amongst them who is very much vexed because they had to abandon his brother, left him for dead, but as they say, it was for the greater good. If we went and saved his brother, it would cause more people to get killed, so they had to abandon him, which was against the human rules and laws of their faction, but for its time, they have to do it. So also, as the game begins, this mysterious assassin-like figure discovers where they are, nearly tries to take out John Connors, but obviously Kyle Reese prevents that. And throughout the course of the game, from now on, John Connors is now in hiding, while the rest of the team have to try and prevent this time machine from being made. That is the plot. Skynet are still trying to create this time machine to send their Terminator back in time. For gameplay, you are just doing a third-person shooter. It's very much fixed angles though, so if you're not a fan of that, be prepared. There are fixed angles, but there's also a lock-on system, and you know what you're aiming at. It feels very Resident Evil at times with how they were portraying the gameplay, but it works. The gameplay also really has a lot of this wave-based Terminators and machines constantly coming at you. There'll be times where you're blocked off, have to wipe out a full set of enemies, and it can get a bit repetitive, but I didn't mind it. I do like a third-person shooter, though. I'm a bit biased, so watch out for that. I love my third-person shooters, and I usually I prefer these over first-persons, I'll be deadly honest. And you play as multiple different characters. Some of them have slightly different abilities or guns, and you're just going through each scenario, each chapter, with each character to eventually get to the end points of the game. There are also gimmicky boss fights in between different stages as well. This one, for example, wants you to place C4s onto these carrier blocks that the robot picks up and then blow them up to basically negate the shield that he has on. There are times you got to be careful, though. You can get really slapped around in these boss fights, and they're some of the more frustrating parts of the game. The game plays out the same throughout really the rest of the game. Multiple stages, multiple different enemies that you'll be taking on, and bosses. The final boss is obviously wiping out Skynet to prevent this all from happening. So you run around, and this final boss really is what you're seeing here. Take out this shield generator, and then take out the big evil Skynet bot afterwards. It's really surprisingly not that difficult, which I'm not complaining. I'm all for an easy, straightforward boss fight. This one has very few gimmicks, very simple, and after a few good shots and pacing, you eventually take out the target. And you know, Reese is happy. We've dealt with Skynet, but there is still an impeding problem. However, before all this happened and we destroyed Skynet, we screwed up and let the Terminator go back in time. So, yeah, we kind of effed up there, but of course, this is why Reese is here. Reese will obviously nominate himself as part of John Connor's plans to go back, prevent the Terminator from taking out John Connor's mother, and hopefully prevent this from affecting the future. The funny thing is, actually, the two remaining Resistance members start going and questioning, have we actually prevented the future from being destroyed? And then there's obviously this big question. What happens when you do send someone back in the past? Does it actually take effect now? Does it take effect in a different timeline? How do we know if it's worked or not? There's all this going on. And of course, while this is going on, Mr. Scumbag, the guy who absolutely hates the Resistance for letting his brother die, has decided to stab us in the back one last time before this all goes on. It's all a bit of a cliffhanger ending for all of this, really. There's all this still going on. It all kind of is left open-ended while we try and wrap up the game. There seems to be a failsafe planned by Skynet as well, because at the very end, in space, a satellite is looming, and when we look at the monitor, it seems it was all planned. Skynet's backup is on a countdown, and not long, Skynet will be rebooting. Ooh, ominous and a cliffhanger, huh? That's how it wraps up. And with that, the credit roll goes on with some rock-hard music. This was another alright game. It's got the license, it does alright. I guess they couldn't get Arnie's likeness during the development of this because there's no ever sign of Arnie, but this was during his time when he was a governor of California. Maybe he had things going on or didn't want his likeness being used. Either way, this was an alright third person. It's got a bit of a steep challenge curve at some points. It gets a little bit rough and tough, but look at it. It was a pretty damn short game as well. We beat this game in 5 hours, 37 minutes and 17 seconds. An incredibly short game, but one that you can at least take on and enjoy, I think, really. It does an alright job. If you like third-person shooter, go for it. I can't say more than that, really. Mediocre all the way through, and a few interesting tidbits now and then. I've heard the other Terminator games are a bit more rough around the edges and notoriously harder than this. We'll see when we get around to it, but this one is an alright Terminator game. Game 18, Bionicle, started on the 30th of May 2022, finished on the 31st of May 2022. When the game boots up, the beat requirement for this was really only you select characters multiply through the game, and I guess we'll just beat every character that the game makes you select. Bionicle for the PS2 is very much a marketing ploy and marketing set up for kids that were getting into the Bionicle Lego sets. It was Lego's answer to a more sci-fi, more teenage-oriented version of their Lego sets, very much masks and powers and weaponizing this different toy branch of the Lego franchise. And like I said with Shadow the Hedgehog, this was a game and toys of its time. Kids were growing up, teenagers wanted something more interesting, and this is what Lego thought would be the pull and interest for Lego toys. I remember getting them as a teenager. I thought they were awesome. Did I get the game? No. I missed out on this because I had other games to grab. So it was nice to finally check this game out. Bionicle is an action-adventure platformer game. You go through each stage with the different Tenuis, with their different mask abilities and their different weapons. And they all kind of have their own unique, interesting style. You start with the lava stage. It's only really a platformer hack and slack section. But as the game goes on, it appeals to you as you move on. Different gimmicks start to go in. You've got the classic water stage. What does the water stage do? You're able to go deep dive and swim around more levels of exploration, more levels of exploring about. But that was what they were doing with this. It's platforming as what you expect, really. And it got interesting. I actually really enjoyed this game. It was a game I was going to 100%, but some of the collectibles were on auto-scroller sections, like the snowboarding section, and that's what made me go, I can't be bothered to go and try and constantly go through these stages over and over again and perfectly get all these collectibles. If it wasn't for this, I would have loved to 100% Bionicle. But besides that, yeah, this game really had some lovely little gimmicks, as what you want as a kid, really. You want to experience every Bionicle, you want to experience everything that they do elemental-wise, what their skills are. So a little bit of snowboarding. There's also a train track section. It's not as annoying as the Donkey Kong train tracks, don't worry. Very much hit switches, lean left and right, don't take damage, and get to the end of the stage. When you do eventually beat all the characters, though, you get one final character you need to play as. Very much just like Sonic Adventure and Shadow the Hedgehog, there is a last story where this golden mask possesses one of the characters and becomes an ultimate Bionicle. I don't know the lore of this, but basically he becomes this super golden Tenui and then goes off to take on the final boss. Yeah, there's a true final boss. Most kids' platformers need something to wrap up the story with, and here it is. This evil guy versus this newly possessed masked dude to take him on in a final bout. If you've played a Zelda game or two, the final boss fight is bouncing back the enemy's projectiles several times while jumping around on limited platforms and eventually taking him down. As long as you're decent with your platforming skills, as long as you keep jumping about and avoiding the pitfalls, this guy goes down pretty quickly, and that's it. It's all up for wraps. A massive explosion happens, and then suddenly just a big blomp autosave comes up. But that is it. The game wraps up. We, as the Golden Mask dude, open this door to find the Golden Light, and we achieve such victory. And with this, not only that, this is the game beat. Yep, this is the wraps of the game. These are the final cutscenes of Bionicle, and the credits roll.
Oh, wow.
With the credit roll, it wraps up our short but enjoyable playthrough of Bionicle. That's all I can really say about this game. Once again, it was a game that was a product placement. It was an advertising pull for the kids that liked Bionicle. But my goodness, what a short game that was, wasn't it? 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 43 seconds. I mean, I'm a collector. I bought this for absolute peanuts, but I'm sure this full release would have been like a £30 game, $30 game. Crazy to think that this, for such a short game, was like going to be sold for full retail. And I'll be honest, there's not really much replay value about this game, so I would say that was a big issue. I guess that's the problem. For a game of its time, it must have been really short and expensive, but for now, I can enjoy it because I spent so little money on it and enjoyed. It's a great platform game to grab up, pick up, and it's a quick beat for people that want to do a quick challenge beat. Bionicle's great. Don't forget to give it a go. I liked it. I hope you're liking it too. Game 19. Super Monkey Ball Deluxe started on the 31st of May 2022 and finished on the 3rd of June 2022. The beat requirement for this one was that there is a main game story mode, and that's basically it. We'll get to the end of story mode until hopefully there's some credits at the end of it. That is how we will approach this one. Super Monkey Ball Deluxe is a compilation of all the Monkey Ball stages from Monkey Ball 1 and 2 that originally released on the GameCube. It got a PS2 release and an Xbox release, and we're able to play a compilation of all the Monkey Ball levels in one package. For story mode, that is exactly it. You beat stages. You don't have to beat them all. You have to beat a set amount of stages while controlling and balancing the level and moving the monkey balls around. Every time you beat a certain amount of stages, then you can then progress to the next lot of stages, and they have varying difficulties and varying challenges. It very much is that, and I like approaching these stages in different ways, and I liked doing some of the harder ones as well as some of the more easier ones in a way that I felt a balance of enjoying what were pro levels and what were difficult stages. Every time you do beat a set amount of stages, you're given a cutscene before going on to the next lot of stages. It very much is the monkeys are trying to deal with the antagonist, Dr. Bad Boon, in different scenarios, different environments, and trying to thwart his plans. He does have different ulterior motives. One is stealing bananas. He also has a weird, creepy fascination with Mimi and does it really creepy ways of trying to let you know what he wants or what wants to do to her. So yeah, creep radar is true and strong with this guy during the game. But you just keep going through these stages. You just keep doing your best, beating every stage as best you can. And eventually, once you've beat a set amount of stages for each level, you eventually wrap things up. The final cutscene is the monkeys thwarting Bad Boon's ulterior plan, which is this giant laser beam. What does this giant laser beam do? No, it doesn't destroy Earth. No, he's got a much more evil plan with the laser beam. He's going to turn every banana to taste like curry. Yeah, that is what needs to be done, and the monkeys aren't having any of it. They're going to stop this full final evil plan from happening, so we can't always have a curry-tasting bananas. With the power of monkey magic, they do defeat Bad Boon, though, and they have a nice little monkey cheery dance at the end to let you know that they have successfully stopped Bad Boon's plans once and for all. And with that, we do say goodbye to story mode as the credits begin to roll. Monkey Ball games always do have these cute little mini-game based credits while you've successfully beaten the game. And that's all there is to say, really. This is just a collection of Monkey Ball levels. Great little challenging. There's replay value if you want. You can go and take on more levels, more different, challenges and difficulties, depending on what you want to do. And there's the bonus mini-games, Monkey Flight being my favorite. I used to love spending hours on that, Monkey Billiards and that. It's all fun and games. It's got a full package of mini-games and challenging levels for you to fully enjoy. For nostalgia myself, I quickly checked out Monkey Flight one last time on the minigame section and then called time. 7 hours, 50 minutes, 15 seconds. It could have been a lot shorter. I was taking on some of the harder Monkey Ball levels, retrying. Definitely about a 5-hour game maybe, or maybe even shorter if you're a Monkey Ball fan. But brilliant game, still highly recommend. Game 20, Chelsea Club Football, started the 3rd of June 2022 and finished on the 3rd of June 2022. The beat requirement for this game for me was going to be to go through the entire Super League series with Chelsea and win the cup at the end of it. That means going through multiple tournaments and eventually trying to be the cup winners. Now, Chelsea Club Football, or Club Football as it is just known around, is a licensed series of football games by Codemasters that supports up to 22 different football teams. Yeah, that was the crazy pull. Favorite and idolized football clubs all got their own game for, different PS2 consoles. So if you supported Chelsea, you got this game. If you got Arsenal, you got their game. There were many clubs supported all over Europe, and this was the pool that Codemasters did for the players. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat my experience with club football. I go in with an open mind and try and enjoy everyone, and club football, I couldn't believe it. Either the physics were wrong with this game or it was badly coded. This was a very unenjoyable sports and football game for me. I gotta say, I feel like goals, for the most part, for my time, were luck-based. This is the key example of one of the goals in the game. The physics and the AI and everything felt balked to me. I even had to replay this goal in particular when I was playing, just because I couldn't believe how it went in. As you can see here, I'm crossing the shot to the player to then get shot on goal, but it bounces off his foot just through physics. It confuses the AI goalkeeper and it just rolls in. And this is just an example of why I just couldn't enjoy the game. I enjoyed Pro Evolution Soccer, I was getting goals, I was loving it, but there was just issues and coding or something that I was just unbelievably frustrated with this game and really put a dampener on the whole experience. When I got a goal, I couldn't believe it most of the time. And as the game got more frustrating, I'm afraid I did delve down into some dirty attacks. When I was 1-0 up, I just couldn't cope anymore. I didn't want the AI to score goals. I didn't want to get equalizers, so I did this strat here. I hate to say it, I parked up. I parked up and let the timer time out, because I couldn't stand the AI scoring a goal and then having to try and score another goal myself during my playthrough. It may be dirty, it may be absolutely horrendous gameplay, but I couldn't beat it legitimately sometimes, or I just had to scoop to this, so I'm sorry, this is how it went down. So when it finally happened, I just prayed that on the final match, the timer would just run out. The AI had the ball. There was so much anxiety going on. I couldn't park up while I was 1-0 up on extra time on the final match, and I was just praying that the AI didn't do it. And there we go. Thank God the whistle blew, and I had achieved a victory and won the cup in Chelsea Club Football. Because of that, this really, like some football games, is how we just say we've beaten it. That's the credits. The cup victory screen is all you get, because you wrap up the tournament. The game tells you you've unlocked this, you've unlocked that. And in the Challenger community, we just consider this a beat when you've achieved an end goal. Football games can go on forever, infinite amount of times usually, but there is a results screen. You're told you've won the cup, you've told you've got a trophy, it's been added to the collection, and for me, Chelsea Club Football was beat. I had done it, and I was happy with it. And, I mean, I wasn't too happy. I did enjoy this game. I think this is infamously a very bad football game anyway. I think there's issues with the game, and why I just called time there and then. My Super League finished on 4 hours, 11 minutes, 15 seconds, and I was happy. Out of every sports game I've played, even up to now in my challenges, I just remember this being a bad, bad time, and I dread the Club Football 2004 when we get to it. Game 21. The History Channel, Civil War, A Nation Divided. Started on the 3rd of June 2022 and finished on the 4th of June 2022. The beat was going to be to beat the North and South stories. They have a difficulty on each one. I just go normal, you know, as normal, and carry on with that. The History Channel's Civil War, A Nation Divided very much is an edutainment game, really, with first-person shooter mechanics involved. You get a breakdown of the events of each stage of the Civil War. There's a History Channel documentary segment explaining what happens in the event of it, and then it's a little bit of a, you know, a retelling while you're playing stuff in the video game section of it. I don't know how historically accurate the actual gameplay part of it is, but it's very old school first-person shooter controls. It's from the Activision guys, so it's iron sights, old school reloading animations, proper old school reload animations as well. And it's just that, you know, take your time, take your shots, and slowly go through the course of the Civil War. Now, the game definitely wants you to use rifles, I think, as the default weapon. You do have a sidearm, a pistol, but the rifles never really seem to hit their mark. I was always switching to the pistol, and it was doing a way better job. So that's usually what happened. There was enemies shooting at me with their rifles. I would reload the pistol, and 9 times out of 10, it was definitely the thing that was bringing the better results. There were other times where I think there was definitely a drop point for the pistol, so then I would switch to the rifle to get the job done. But pistol was my friend throughout this jaunt through the Civil War, until the rifle was then used now and then to take out my enemies. And the game really does derive mostly of those run and gun sections while learning bits of history. And also there's these weird Gatling gun sections as well now and then on a few stages. There's some poor guys pushing the cart along while you just gun down the enemies that are foolishly trying to take on a much more stronger outgunned weapon. But there we go. If you're wondering about the life bar in this game, it's on the screen right now. It's the bottom left corner. Those 4 stars are your life bar. As you slowly lose stars, that means your life runs out. You need to make sure that you're getting med packs. And the other weird dots on the lower left corner on the HUD are your grenades. You have so many of them, you keep finding them, and I don't really use the grenades in the game too much. They weren't that great, but there you go. That is how the gameplay revolves and how it works for the most part. So you're back and forth between the North and South campaigns, and eventually the final forced mission is, I believe, the true victory of history. I'm imagining where the North finally over-empower the South, capture their final form of defense, and they raise the American flag for America. I mean, I don't know. I'm afraid I'm not a history buff at the best of times, especially a American history buff. Maybe if people play this, they'll learn about the Civil War and experience it in a way, in form of an interactive media, so you get to have fun as well as learning about civil history. I don't know much about it. It was a fun game though, you know, that was it. The American flag flies, and that is the game beat. The credits fly by, and we can sign off another game. American Civil War in an interactive media format. There is another Civil War game I still actually don't own to this day. I need to find it. It's a North American only release, but there is another Civil War History Channel game. It's a first-person shooter. The gunplay is a bit off for the rifle, I honestly think, and I really did use the pistol most, if not all the time. But besides that, that is the game end, and it's a very short one. We beat this one in 4 hours, 6 minutes. There's only like, I think, 6 missions on the north, 6 missions on the south. Get that all done, wrap it all up, and it's a game beat. Short-lived, a little bit of history you can learn along the way, but most of the time, it's an interactive media that is good for what it is, and Activision did a good job with whoever the FPS team were behind this one. Well done. There are the first 10 out of these 100 games I'm going to be doing the burst review for. We'll do it in sections of 10, otherwise this video is going to be like 10 hours long. So thank you for watching the first 10. It is a little bit of this burst format that will just help me get review videos out, catch up to what we are on the content, and then I can just go back to doing one review at a time. I'm in a better place. I'll know how the games are going so far, and I hope you guys don't mind this 100 burst gameplay breakdown of all the games leading up to the PS2 Collection Challenge. Thanks guys, and get ready for part 2, the next 10 games leading up to 11 to number 20. Thanks everyone, see you soon.